like Switzerland. I sit somewhere in the middle because I do see both sides. Really trying to understand where a person is coming from can be the start of some great things. We find people homes. We
Yeah.
find people great places to work. May 10th, 2000, we both got fired. Becoming an entrepreneur was definitely one of the best things that you'll ever do. And it's not for everyone. I was ready to quit. My whole entire business changed. I started just attracting these amazing opportunities. Let's specialize. Specializing is where it's at.
Hello and welcome to the Success Differently podcast. My name is Michèle Sorgaroli and I'm your host. And today we are honored to be joined by Wendy Melvin, the visionary behind IT Mindfinders and more recently BigFish Executive Search. For over 25 years, Wendy's entrepreneurial spark has been shaking up Vancouver's old school IT recruitment scene, turning it into something far more collaborative and built on reputation. She's warm, straightforward, and sharp when it comes to finding the right fit. And here's a fun fact. Her inspiration came from a BC Business magazine cover with a shiny porcelain toilet. And the question, what's your company's reputation? That moment lit a fire that has fueled over 2 decades of building companies based on trust, fit, and real integrity. And Wendy, I'm so excited to have this conversation with you.
Oh, a lovely introduction. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. I'm just delighted to
Yeah.
be here and, speaking to reputation, human connection, really bringing in trust. I can't wait to see where this goes. But first, I am curious because I looked at your LinkedIn profile. I didn't actually know this about you, shockingly, because we've known each other for quite some time. Um,
Yeah.
I did not know that you did a Bachelor of Arts in criminology and psychology. So I want to hear about
True
that.
story.
Yeah. And then
Yeah.
how the heck did you end up in IT recruitment? So tell me about criminology and psychology. What was it that drew your inspiration to start that?
Oh, funny. I actually thought that I was going to be a lawyer. And
Uh-huh.
so I spent all this time in the law library in several universities actually, and it's just like at the end of all of this, and oh, it's just like I just can't do that. I am not
Yeah.
going to be able to be a lawyer. Then I thought environmental law. I was thinking all along these lines, and then I just couldn't. I just couldn't do it. Criminology was fascinating. It actually ties into a lot of what I'm doing now. And psychology, always fascinating. People are interesting. But I almost changed my degree halfway through and went into business
Oh,
to
wow.
do my business degree. But I just decided to commit to it, finish it off, and off I went in a completely different direction.
That's awesome. Well, finish the job, so to speak, right? Commit to it and get it done.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
That's amazing. You made a comment that I actually caught my attention. Criminology is somehow related to what you do now. Can you
You know
expand on
what?
that a little?
We have a wonderful client. Yeah, a lot. Actually, we have a few really wonderful clients in public sector. And a lot of the work that I do, I won't name any names, but a lot of the work that I do today makes me go back to the time that, I did a lot in the criminology area. And it was really fascinating. It was really fascinating work. So one of our clients is very related to that area in terms of public
Oh,
safety. So
oh
it
my
was neat.
gosh. Yeah,
So
that
yeah.
is curious.
I
So,
haven't thought about my degree in a long time, Michelle.
well, it's
Oh
often
my
like,
goodness.
we often get asked in our career, oh, what did you study at school?
Yeah.
I still get asked that, funnily enough, after also 20 plus years. But
Yeah.
yeah, what did you study in school? And so I thought, oh, I'm just going to go look. And I thought, where the heck did criminology come from? Psychology, I understand a little bit more, but what was
Yeah.
law, but so what was interesting to you about law and or criminology at that time enough so that you thought you might want to pursue it?
Geez, that's a very good question. Um, I actually remember just being, I've always been um, interested, I think, just in how people, like, and what makes them tick, and I think that the criminology side of things, I kind of fell into that. I don't think there was anything in particular, but boy, oh boy, there were some fascinating courses that I took, and it just kind of kept it going for me. I was like, okay, how can I incorporate the criminology side of things with the psychology side of things? And yeah, I just really thought it was neat, and it all tied into the legal profession. And
Okay.
so by the time I got into like almost fourth year, it's like, I'm not sure I can do law, so to speak. It was
Yeah.
just too, it just wasn't, it just wasn't for me. It just didn't feel right to me. And
Mm.
I also was one of these people that I've always been able to see both sides of a coin. I remember being asked to like argue for one thing or another, and I always was stuck because I can see both sides
Uh,
of situations, both sides on the criminology thing, both sides politically. I see it. I really get
mhm.
it. And I think I'm really good at arguing for both sides. So I sit somewhere, I'm like Switzerland. I sit somewhere in the middle
Interesting.
because I do see both sides.
Yeah, that's really curious and certainly good awareness because in law, of course, you're only meant to see one side, right?
Yeah,
I would
yeah.
imagine. Was that the thing that most stood out for you in terms of what you were avoiding or resisting
Um,
at that time?
no, I don't think so. I think I just one thing that just keeps popping into my mind right now, actually, that really changed my life regarding criminology was a course I did on, at the time, it was called First Nations Justice
Mhm.
course, and it was literally a fourth year course. It changed my life. It literally changed my life from, having grown up in a family that had quite conservative belief systems.
Mm.
And, I, and a certain worldview. I really was educated about
Oh,
First Nation issues, and it was fascinating. It literally changed my whole view, my whole life view around this. And that has come back through my whole entire life since that time. Um, and yeah, that was one thing that I think was really, really pivotal for me with taking criminology.
really interesting. Hey,
Yeah,
especially this would have been in your early 20s, I imagine, late
yeah,
teens, right
yes,
around there,
yes,
20-ish. At
yes,
such a pivotal time when we're starting to see the world around us and our worldviews. Most of the time at that age, our worldviews are being challenged somehow or another through our experiences as we go into the bigger world at large. For you, going from that conservative viewpoint to this course that introduced, I'm imagining a completely different perspective. Is that what
yes.
happened?
Completely different. Just I was able to like learn so much history and just be able
Mm.
to argue with my family about, really um, understanding the plight, and understanding a deep understanding of what had happened there and continued to happen. And I really feel like it has made me a much more well-rounded person and has brought out that side of me that is extremely empathetic
Yeah.
towards, different sectors of our society, I think.
Oh, absolutely. I'm hearing that. Especially it was obviously a very strong experience for you, emotionally strong and expansive experience for you. And I'm thinking, you said, I see both sides. I see both sides.
Yeah.
Did you see both sides before that course? Like, did you have that skill then And did this
I don't
magnify
know.
that?
I think it just brought it out for me, like learning how
Mm.
to write and construct. Like, obviously, we didn't have Chat GPT back in the day. I had to write 20, 30-page papers
Yeah.
on, argue for and against, capital punishment and why we should. I mean, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
And so these were things that I really had to use my brain and think very, very hard. And just having the seeing different sides,
Yeah.
of and learning about history and having all of the knowledge, not even close to all of it, but
Hmm.
having knowledge is powerful.
Yeah.
And I felt like university really taught me
Mm.
how to think.
Isn't that interesting? Yeah.
Think.
Yeah. It's and yeah, I love that because you're saying you were exposed, maybe exposed, or you had a natural inclination, perhaps, to see both sides to the extent that you could. Then you were
Yeah,
exposed to a completely a much broader experience. But then I think what's interesting is you were exposed to that experience, that new perspective, but you also talked about having to argue both sides. And so you were challenged to develop it more.
yeah,
So that in itself is interesting because you were challenged to develop it more, I would imagine
yeah,
that you were practicing the skill of empathy actually
yeah.
as you're putting yourself on both sides. What would this be like? What would that be like? And that's something not most of us don't have that kind of intentional challenge in our life where we have to take both sides intentionally and say, okay, let's argue for both, right?
Yeah. No, I truly, it's so interesting that you brought this up because I can see how this has stayed with me for my entire career as it pertains to, what I do, looking from a candidate's perspective, somebody
Yeah.
who's looking for a position, but then also representing the client and the organization. And I am definitely very good at going deeper into how both sides are thinking. And that is probably, now that I think about it, and you brought this out, it's probably the place where that was really developed was in university and forcing me to really go deeper
Yeah.
and into the thinking of both sides. And it's helped me too, politically in this last like number of years where, the world is a rather contentious place, very
Yeah.
divided.
Hmm.
And on so many topics, so many issues. And so I think that I naturally now, rather than just sit in my corner and go,
Mm.
I'm right, you
Hmm.
know, they're
Hmm.
wrong, we're right. I really truly do try to see both sides and both perspectives. And I think that's really the only way that things are going to get better is if people can do
Yeah.
that and really sit down and say, what is making this side tick?
Hmm.
Where are they coming from? And that is empathy, isn't it? I
Hmm.
guess. I don't
Well,
know.
it's, I think you're touching on something here because, yeah, it is. I think it is empathy. It's understanding and putting yourself in someone else's position so that you can experience it to the best of our ability from their position and see, understand that. Beyond that or underneath that, there's the idea that all of us feel much more safe or secure, if you will, if we feel understood, if we feel seen, if we feel heard. And I think we tend to, when we're not, if we feel like we haven't been validated, seen, understood, heard, if we don't feel like we've been validated, we can tend to become more pronounced in our in our opinions, right? We can
Right.
tend to become like
Yes.
more forceful and because we're wanting to be heard. And I think interesting, the
Hmm.
key in
Mhm.
feeling heard and seen and understood is that once that's been appreciated, once we've been appreciated for that, we are more receptive or open to
Yes.
hearing, okay, what do you have to say?
Yeah.
How does that sit with you? Like, what?
I I just, what pops for me there is just the listening piece.
Mm.
Just listening to somebody and where they're actually coming from.
Yeah.
I think that can be very healing. It can be just golden,
Yeah.
really, in our personal lives, hugely in our professional lives. Like I can't even I can't even count how many times I've been like, oh my goodness, this person just doesn't listen. They just don't stop to
Mm-hmm.
listen or let anything in. You can see that they are actually formulating what they want to say as you're talking. You can see.
You can see.
So I don't
It's
know,
so,
listening,
yeah.
and listening and really trying to understand where a person is coming from can, I think, be the start of some great things.
Yeah, great.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
And
even, yeah, definitely like with our children, with lots of different scenarios for sure.
yeah.
We want to be heard.
Oh, yes. Yeah. People, it's important, I think. And I think that to your point, when we're listening, if we're listening to hear, we're also learning at that time. We're learning about, oh, I hadn't even considered that. Or that isn't a perspective that I've ever been exposed to. Or
Mhm.
um, oh, that's interesting. What makes you think that? I'm like you. I'm very curious about other perspectives and trying to understand what's motivating that behavior, what's
Yes.
motivating
Oh,
that thinking.
so if you just dig a little bit, you can
Hmm.
uncover so much. Like,
Yeah,
oh, you can think in your mind that the way this person thinks is just so this, or this. But if you just dig in a little bit and say, why is it? What is it about this that, makes you tick? Or
yeah,
why do you feel this way? Is there something linked? There's always something
yeah,
linked to it that usually is, at the heart of the understanding. That's where it lies. I don't think it's just on the surface of you claiming,
yeah.
claiming this is what side I'm on.
Yes,
So
there's always
yeah,
a whole paragraph behind the sentence.
yes,
Right? I
absolutely.
like to say,
Absolutely.
yeah, and this is
Which
where,
is why also I think too, in my career, I think one of the things that's been really interesting to me is that I have been on both sides of the coin as well. So I have been the job seeker out there looking and having to, go through that process, which is not
mm,
easy. And I remember thinking to myself at that time, oh my goodness, they are sending me on these funny assignments and they're not listening. Like, why am I going on these interviews? The, person sending me on these interviews is not
right.
listening to what I want.
Hmm.
So I think I really took that into consideration
As a candidate.
um,
Hmm.
when I got into my field.
Oh my gosh, yes. Okay. Yeah, so we can see a lot of the theme of collaboration that I mentioned earlier, the theme of collaboration really showing up and listening and building the win-win. And that's the empathy for both sides, the candidate and the employer, if you will. We can see that. Um, so I want to go before we get too deep into it, because I want to go into that. And I also
Yeah.
want to know, so you did your degree, and what happened then that took you from coming out of university with this bachelor's in criminology
Mhm.
and psychology into IT recruiting? There's
I
a connection
bizarre.
there. So
Yeah,
help us understand what
totally.
happened
Yes.
between those.
Yes. And it is a little bit funny. It's not all that funny, but I guess it kind of is. When I finished university with my degree, I had no idea really what I wanted to do. So I decided to be non-committal. I was going to do some temporary assignments, and I went to a temp agency.
Okay.
And I will never forget this place. I actually went to a couple of temp agencies, and they were fantastic. and they had all these interesting positions. Unfortunately, when you first start out in that area, they will put you on the worst assignments ever.
Oh,
I don't know if that was just like a practice back in the day, but I got sent on some assignments that you would not really believe was not fun. Um, and and there was three of them that were really, really tough. And I guess the third one was I won over this person that kept firing people. And I think it was with the Department of Highways or Transportation
okay.
and Highways.
Okay.
And he was just like this, I don't know, curmudgeon-y person that didn't like anybody and
Oh,
didn't like any of the temps that he had brought in until I showed up.
okay.
And then he just was happy. So I guess I did the impossible. And what ended up happening after that is I started getting all these great assignments. So they were like, oh, you have proven yourself. You won over the curmudgeon. And off we go. They start putting me on these great, great positions. And I was offered some jobs, but this was just not for me. I was like, this is great. I have some money coming in. I can think about what I want to do. But actually, what I really like is I like what those people that are putting me on these assignments,
Oh,
I like what they do. That's cool. How do I get involved
interesting.
in that? How do I get hired there? So that was when it all started. And I think I ended up winning temp of the year.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. So what do you think, what was it that that helped you be acknowledged for that? What were you doing that helped you be acknowledged as temp of the year and winning over this curmudgeon that was
I
disinclined to?
Well, I can certainly tell you it was not my admin skills. I was Well, I wasn't terrible, Michèle, but I wasn't great.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it was just my ability to relate to
Mm,
people. And I I I
yeah.
guess that would be it. And be reliable.
Mm,
Be able to I think adapt to situations that were not common everyday situations and just be able to deal literally with all types of people across the board. And
mm,
I think that was the reason,
yeah.
the reasoning behind that. Um, yeah, it was a very good time in my life because it gave me a lot of affirmation from all different kinds of industries, from like
Right.
architecture firms to, you know, provincial or government organizations that I was placed at. And I just got a lot of, there was a software company, there was another temp agency. And so it gave me exposure to a lot of different organizations and
Hmm.
a lot of different sectors and industries. And that to me, as a 20-something-year-old,
Hmm.
was really fascinating. Um, I really enjoyed that as well. So
Interesting. Yeah.
yeah,
So
it was
really speaking
really
to the,
rewarding.
yeah, speaking to the theme of people skills and collaborating and understanding people and being able, in your words, being able to relate. You also spoke to being reliable and being able to
Yeah,
adapt. It's interesting.
that I am.
So you fell in love with or was really curious about this recruitment work that was happening on the other side
Yeah.
as you were a candidate.
Oh yeah.
So
Yeah.
what happened then? You were doing all this temping, and how long did that go on after school? Was that like a year or 3 years?
It
Little
was
while?
1 or 2 years, yeah. And I really liked these. These were sharp business women, and I really liked them.
Okay.
Um, and I was like, yeah, I think this is a really good industry for me.
All right.
So I ended up meeting, like doing informational interviews or meetings with a couple of these
Mm-hmm.
people. Um, one in particular lady who had started her own agency, and she was actually a connection of my dad's.
Oh my gosh.
And so I went in and I met with her, and she became a good confidant, I think,
Mm.
and basically told me what I had to do to get into the industry. And that was I needed to go develop some sales skills, which was like the worst thing I could ever wanted to do. But I
Hmm.
was like, okay, I will do that. I will
Mm.
do what it takes. And so I did do that. I did end up getting hired at a large recruiting organization. I won't drop any names there, but that was, and I worked there for a couple of years
Okay.
and thought to myself that that was truly the most stressful um, environment that I could have ever dreamed of.
So not at all what you were
And I
anticipating.
just kept thinking to myself, stressful, because it was all about numbers. It was all
Mm.
about how much business you brought in. It was very sales related. And I did
Mm.
not enjoy myself at all.
Mm. Hmm.
Um, it was really awful. And it really led me to think to myself, wow, I feel like there would be a better way of doing this that
Hmm.
is not, that is more focused. Well, it is focused in a different area rather than, I just felt it was like gouging. It was
Hmm.
gouging. It was all about money and bottom line. And it really wasn't about people and developing the relationships and like earning trust with clients and candidates. And candidates were just, they were not important in the process.
Uh,
And I didn't like that. So there were just a lot of things like fundamentally, I was like, this doesn't seem right, but I am only 20 something.
mm,
And, but it didn't sit well with me.
right.
So,
Interesting.
yeah.
And was that what I want to know where the toilet fits in? The image of the shiny
Okay.
porcelain toilet and reputation. So I'm kind of going, where did that happen? Was that an inspiration to start your business, or was that an inspiration for a pillar in your business? So what happened? You're uncomfortable in
So
this.
I got hired by a smaller firm thinking, okay, so I've got my recruitment. I've learned it from the sort of corporate world, what they expect. And a smaller company hired me. So, and they
Mm,
needed dedicated recruiters, dedicated recruiter. And because they were more like full
okay.
scale human resources. So they
Okay. So
hired
this
me
was
as a
not a
sort of
recruitment
recruitment
company.
specialist.
Okay.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah. And I was not there. I felt like 5 minutes. It was probably 2 days when I had one or two people approach me and say, what are you doing? Like, this company is not highly regarded in the industry. And, I can't believe you've done this, or just like along that line where I was like, oh my goodness, I might have made a big mistake here. And I got really concerned. So that I think was the impetus where I was like, this is not good. And then as I'm sitting in the office one day, I have this BC Business magazine, and on the front of it, honestly, it feels like it was three
Wow.
days ago that this happened. On the front of this magazine was a toilet, picture of the porcelain toilet, and it says, do you know where your reputation is? Or, corporately, where's your reputation? Is it in the toilet? Is it this? Is it that? And I was like, oh no, I think I have joined an organization where their
Hmm.
reputation is not great. And
This,
I
oh my
started
gosh.
thinking on this and thinking, it would be easier for me to start my own firm than it would be to turn this ship around that already is in negative territory in terms of its reputation.
Mm,
Start something from scratch and build your own. And it's literally everything you say and do is going to affect that reputation. And that really what it was. It
there
was
you go.
like it hit me so hard, and and that. The ball started rolling, and then yeah, that
Interesting.
was it's like I was done. With the exception of my dad trying to stop me, to warn me of all the pitfalls of starting your
Yeah.
own business.
Aw.
Yeah, it that was close.
Isn't that
He was
interesting?
he was yeah, he was looking out for me.
As yes, as
So
they do.
yeah,
Interesting to me that prior to that job where reputation was being challenged,
yeah,
reputation wasn't even something that you had really, I'm not hearing that that was really on your radar. It was probably sort of in the background somewhere. You know, you were obviously a high performer, you held yourself to high standards and all of that, but that was probably to some degree just status quo for you and who you were and not something that was right in front of your nose. And then when you joined this other company, interesting to me how these messages kind of show up, right? You're there, what you said, a couple of days, 2 or 3 days, and you'd already been
yeah,
sort of approached by others saying reputation, reputation, reputation. And then this BC Business magazine shows up on your desk and it says, hey, which
yeah,
to my mind, sometimes the things we value, that's how we realize it.
yeah.
They show up when it's being compromised or we're feeling out of integrity. Because throughout your whole journey, you were saying things like deep understanding and wanted to care about the people and really wanted to be able to relate to people and, you know, be reliable. And so there are threads of all of that throughout. But until
Yeah.
that moment, it probably wasn't as pronounced for you.
No, it wasn't. And I mean, the corporate world to me as a 20, like in my early 20s, what is that? I didn't know companies.
Yeah.
I didn't understand the business market when I was that age. So but I did become very cognizant of our small business community and how very small it is. It's
Mm.
quite small, and there's a lot of connections.
Yeah.
And how powerful that is if somebody has a bad experience with you, your organization, um, how incredibly powerful that is because people will talk about that.
Mm.
And I was like, but on the flip side, if you have a wonderful experience with someone, people will also talk about that. And so it did become, I did realize at that time, every organization has a reputation, right? Has
Mm.
a reputation that they care about upholding or they don't care about
Mhm.
upholding. And yeah, for me, there was just this big connection between how my own efforts and the efforts of my team, how we could really
Mhm.
make things different and how easily it would be to do that as your own entity, right? And
Yeah.
build it yourself as
Mhm.
opposed to building out somebody else's dream
Right.
or trying to fix somebody else's dream, which I
Mhm.
felt like I was constantly trying to run cover for, team
Mhm.
members that were just not doing things the way that I would have done them.
Yeah.
So
And you know,
yeah,
this was early on. I mean, what at that time, because I'm not quite sure of exactly the timing for you, but 25 years plus, um, was culture a big thing back then? I don't remember. In,
what do
there
you mean by what do you
culture,
mean by
the
culture?
word culture, that kind of blossomed, and I don't remember when it happened and became, culture eats
Corporate
strategy for
culture,
breakfast
yeah.
and corporate culture. When, I don't know, was that present at that time or was that not yet sort of mainstream conversation in the corporate community?
I think it absolutely was. And
Okay.
there was a very strong culture in the technology industry in Vancouver at the time when I started
Oh,
in 2000, right?
yeah.
So it was very vibrant. It was very new. It
Yeah.
was .com days, right?
Yeah.
The huge appealing corporate culture within tech. There still is, obviously. It's like developed over the years, but back then it was,
Um,
yes, it definitely was a thing.
so was okay, awesome. So was culture, the IT community culture, what attracted you to become focused on and start IT Mindfinders then? In
I
terms,
think what it was there was a fellow when I went to the smaller company, there was a fellow named Cameron, which
I
you happen to like that name
do happen to
because
like
that's your son's name. Um,
that.
yeah, Cameron joined the same organization shortly after I did.
Okay.
And I don't know if I'm even allowed to say this on video, but I tried to stop him
Oh,
because I was like, I think I have made a very big mistake and you might be doing the same. So
okay.
I was interviewing him, but I was like, anyway, he ended up coming on board anyway. And it wasn't long before he and I were discussing the toilet magazine and the, oh Lord, what have we done? And what do you think about this idea? And that was when the conspiring happened. And that was when we started putting business plans together. And yeah, so that was really, really where it started and kind of snowballed. And just because it did snowball quickly, we
Mhm.
literally, yeah, that was quite a story. May 10th, 2000, we both got fired.
Oh my gosh. So it was the decision was made for you.
Yes. Yes, it
Interesting.
was because we had just gotten our startup loan. We were, we both had student loans. And I don't know how that, this two financial institutions offered us startup loans. And um, and within 24 hours, sadly, our boss had heard about or caught wind of
Ah,
something going on, and he let us both go. And it was very, very upsetting.
yeah.
However, just because of the integrity piece of it,
Mm,
it was very upsetting. However, I knew it was the right decision, and 25 years later, obviously,
yeah.
I knew it was the right decision. We couldn't get a loan unless we both had jobs at the time, so we had to go through that uncomfortable process. And
Right.
yeah, anyway, so
Fascinating, huh? How,
yeah,
as we look at, the things that have informed how you ended up where you are today, with
yeah,
really strong pillars of integrity, collaboration, seeing both sides, empathy for both parties, creating
yes,
win-wins, and
yes,
reputation. I just want
yes.
to finish up on that. When you speak to reputation, Wendy, from your perspective,
Mhm.
what is it that you're paying the most attention to? What's important about it?
Ah, that's a very good question. I think a lot of it is my brain first thing goes to our candidates and how important they are to us and how important that they feel like they're important in the process. They are not the ones who are
Mm,
essentially paying our bills. They do not give us money, but they entrust a lot to us. And as a candidate myself back in the day,
hmm
um, I really felt like I was not being listened to. I was not, being
mm,
there was just a piece where I felt like I was a piece of meat, if you will.
right.
Here you go. I wasn't that important. So we are really our candidates are very important to us. And there are many times in a year where we've had candidates come to us and say, that was the best experience that I've ever had with a recruitment firm. And this is both on the technology, on IT Mindfinder side, as well as BigFish. And so that's been really affirming. I think that was just out of the gate really important. really important to
Yeah.
us. Um, I also think about the time when I heard from someone that they had not had a good experience with us. And
Mm.
I didn't know that this had happened. I had no idea. And I actually, it bothered me to the extent that I actually pursued speaking to that person so that I could clean up whatever that was
Mm.
that happened there. And yeah, and that was a candidate. They weren't a client, but I just feel really strongly about that candidates really are what make us successful. And that's where we end up getting a lot of our business comes from our 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 people and our
Yeah.
network.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah. So
the integrity in the matching process and really giving, what I'm hearing is you're just really honoring the humans in the equation.
yes,
Right.
100%. And we do what we say we're going to do. There are so many times as well. My colleague and I, Sarah, who is she is the joy of my day
Oh,
almost every day. She's
that's
just
lovely.
so great to work with. And she's so good with the candidates. She's also so good with the clients, but her main focus is on dealing with candidates. We often though talk about how, the way that we operate is sometimes different from the way that other people operate and we return phone calls. We do return messages. And if we say we're going to do something, we
Mm.
literally do not sleep if we have not done and stayed to our word about something. And I think that was when I was a candidate, or even, when I've had to deal with business people, and they just sometimes people drop the ball. And,
Mhm.
I think that's one thing that we are very cognizant of. And if we lowered our expectations of the rest of the world,
Yeah.
life would be easier.
Oh my gosh. Well, I'm just hearing your experience early on of being a candidate and also working for recruitment firms gave you such a strong sense of how it feels to be the candidate or even to be the recruiter when there's a lack of integrity or when in your language, when it just doesn't feel right. It's not right. This shouldn't
Or
be
even
this way.
just like the information when you're representing both sides. Really the listening part, coming back to the listening part,
Yeah.
when you're speaking with a client, listening deeply to a client and a candidate about what it is that they
Mm,
really want. You can write things on paper, you can have job descriptions, you can have a resume, all these things, but just, you know, asking them, truly defining requirements, a lot of times asking the tough questions.
right.
And you're very good at that. You've asked me some tough questions
Thank
and
you.
pulling it
Oh,
out, right? Pulling it out of people. But what is it you need this person to do? What is it that you really want in a job?
hmm.
Not what you're good at so much.
Mm,
What makes your heart sing? You know, I think
mm,
asking the questions after you've listened
yeah.
is very important.
Oh, well, thank you. That's just such a beautiful gem, what you just said there, because you said what makes your heart sing. And, when you're a candidate, sometimes it's just, I just want a job. And they might even
Yeah,
have that perspective, right? I just need a job. And then when
yeah,
you are an employer, we just need a bum in the seat.
yeah, yeah. We
At
don't
the
actually do that. I don't
right.
even put. I like if someone said either of those things to me,
Yeah.
I'd be like, sorry, we don't
Yeah.
actually do that. We find people homes. We
Yeah.
find people great places to work, and
Yeah.
candidates, if they don't know what they want or they just want a job, we're
Yeah.
not the right people for
Yeah.
them. Yeah.
It's really, that human connection, what makes they're connecting in a sense with the things that they value, right? And creating that match. And, I'm just imagining all the people that you've placed in all the companies that you have the fortune of serving, the good fortune of
Yeah.
serving, where their hearts are singing. That's just lovely.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that one too. And my mom's lovely. My mom, she has been, well, my dad was always our biggest fan as well, but and my dad was a businessman, and my mom has for our 25th anniversary have this big balloon in front of my face right now that's such big 25 that she had this little party for me, and she ran a bunch of statistics on how many candidates we placed,
Oh
and
my
which
gosh.
I should probably have that in front of me, but it literally was like, wow, I have found hundreds of people
Yeah.
jobs over 25 years.
Yeah.
And yeah, becoming an entrepreneur was definitely one of the best, most rewarding, also hardest, also, most greatest, as
Mm.
things that you'll ever do. It's, yeah,
Yeah.
it's a thing. And it's not for everyone.
It's not for everyone. And, to your point, it's sometimes the most challenging and the hardest. Those are the things that really stretch us and pull us. And of course, on the other side, it's what makes it the most fulfilling and the most rewarding and all that beautiful
Yeah.
growth that happens. Wendy, it's just
Yeah.
been an absolute joy. And seeing your heart sing as you share your passion with us has been absolutely lovely. As you're thinking back on your journey and on our conversation today, if there were one thing that really stood out for you on your path to where you are now, what might you like to highlight?
Hmm. Oh, well, it's a great question. I have to actually go back to 2013 when I was having, what do you call a mid-career crisis? Let's call it that. Let's be old school.
Oh,
And you and our paths intersected. I was ready to quit. I was ready to close up the business for a number of reasons, just because our industry is a difficult, it can be a difficult industry for a number of reasons. Um, and I did I think it was like a 6-month program with
hmm
you,
hmm
and it changed everything. So, this is now, I made it to 25 years. So literally this was halfway through,
Yeah.
and
Mm.
I was ready to say, I'm going to start a new company. And I am going to be a yogi and just open a yoga studio. And I've done it before. I'll do it again. I'll have another
Mm.
successful business because I'm sick of the rat race. I'm sick of all of this. And you came and worked with me, and we worked through a lot of really important foundational things that I had
Mm.
not thought about in many, many years.
Mm.
And and then you helped me to compact them in a way that I literally use these things and these philosophies and um, and my strengths and getting in touch with why I do what I do.
Mm.
And I got back to that again. And
Mm.
literally, I'm sure it was the same week that I finished the program with you, program or whatever, time with you, that I my whole entire business changed. And I started getting clients that I loved working with. All of my values just,
Mm.
I started just, I don't know, attracting these amazing opportunities. And I started having fun again in what I do. And honestly, I have not really stopped once since then. I have not stopped enjoying what I do. I love what I do. And 25 years in this industry is, I'm kind of been shocked myself, but I still love what I do. I
Mm.
love like what I've created, and and so much of that is I'm grateful to you for that time together, because it really kept me going. And not only did I start a new business, I kept IT Mindfinders, which is, been going strong
Yeah.
since. I also started another industry within the same sector within search and started BigFish. And those it's very similar, but leadership roles
Right.
devoted to leadership positions, which I love doing and my colleague Sarah loves doing. And and it just feeds off, both of them feed off each other. So my blueprint, I have it here. I refer
Oh,
to it so often, I
oh my
can't
gosh.
even tell you. It's quite amazing. And when I like do a refresh on it, it all gels still. It all gels for
Thank
me.
you, Wendy.
So that is really neat. That was really valuable work to me, and it saved my whole,
Yeah.
recruitment legacy, that I love doing it. And we are
Mm.
different. And that made me realize how different we are, and to carry on.
Mm. Thank you so much. What you're really highlighting is just this is what makes my work so joyful, especially
Oh,
seeing 12 years, 13 years later, how it
yeah.
manifests and it's all still true. When you're aligning with what you value and what's important to
Yeah.
you and really allowing yourself to express in that fully and bring value through that, um,
Yeah.
good things tend to happen. So thank you for
And I
sharing that.
remember it's not an easy process either. Like,
No.
you think, oh, so what is
Yeah.
it? Your philosophies. Okay, tell me what your philosophies are. Oh wow. It was hard
Yeah.
to figure out, not just like throwing out, buzzwords. Really, what are your values? What are your philosophies? And you were like, I remember you looking at me going, it's not easy work,
Yeah.
you know? You can't
Yeah.
just bang these things off and go, oh, here it is. Here's my mission statement. And no, it's
Mm.
deeply personal.
Yeah.
It's deeply foundational, and it is the start of everything. You've got to have the foundation. If you don't have the foundation, you might build up to a certain point, and then things will just collapse, because you'll have some kind of wrench thrown into it, and it will end up collapsing until you go back to the
Mm.
foundational piece that's got to be built.
And that's the gem. I think, first of all, thank you for this. I didn't anticipate any of this in our conversation. So
Well, it was pivotal. It was pivotal.
it
I'm
was
not gonna
pivotal.
lie. It was a big
Pivotal.
shift.
The
Yeah.
thing, the thing to highlight is at that time, I just want to emphasize that throughout your journey, up until a couple of years before we met, probably, you really were operating from a place of integrity and what you valued. And it wasn't necessarily less and less, it was being rewarded. Right? It was you were trying to hold true to it, and it was less and less being rewarded, and you couldn't see a way for that to turn into something that was truly meaningful and rewarding for you in whatever way it needed to be. Um, and it just goes to show that when you connect with and really honor what's important to you, the difference that you want to make, the values that you have, when you really honor those and express them in your way, good things tend to happen.
Yeah.
So,
It just makes it so much easier,
yeah.
and actually so much more fun
Yeah.
to do, to have your business. Like if somebody said to me, "Oh, Wendy, you know what? You should just retire." Just retire. No. I love what I do. It
Yeah,
makes me feel good, and I love
exactly.
connecting people and finding jobs for
Hmm.
people.
Yeah,
I love the tech industry. And I should go back, actually, in case I get called out on this. You did ask me about how did you get in the tech side, because I was not a techie,
that's right.
but one of the co-founders of the company, Cameron McDonald, um, Cameron was technical. Cameron
Mm,
had gone to
okay.
through
Right.
a technical program, And we started thinking about, like, at that time, it was very much the .com days and very exciting things happening there. We're like, technology is the wave of the future. That was, we have to be in technology. And
Right.
that was definitely like specializing. I had a true intuitive moment there where I'm like, let's not try and be everything to everyone. Let's specialize. Specializing is where it's at. And Vancouver definitely is a town of specialists, and that's what they want. You're just going to get yourself in trouble if you try and be a generalist in this town. So we've always stuck with that, and
Amazing.
yeah, that definitely has been an area that we have stuck with for 25 years now.
Right. Yeah. And
So yeah.
sticking with it has probably been part of the reason for your long-term success as well, because you become an expert in that, right? As well. Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
All righty, Wendy, amazing conversation. Is there, for those people who would like to connect with you on either side, either as a potential candidate, a stellar, outstanding candidate with high integrity and trust and good fit stuff, or an employer, where might they find you?
Yes, definitely. You can visit us at either of our websites. So we've got IT Mindfinders is itmindfinders.com, and we have BigFish executive search.com as well. And as I said, that's more on the leadership side. IT Mindfinders is focused mainly on senior technical positions.
Amazing. All righty. We will be sure to make sure those links are available for our listeners. And thank you so much